Hello, Erlings. Welcome back to After Hours. It's bank holiday this weekend. I'm recording this little intro to Paul Harris's episode on the 4th of May. So it's a Sunday before the bank holiday weekend. But I'm hoping that this will be coming out on the late May bank holiday. So from one bank holiday to the other. I just hope everyone's being kind of, sensible. And if you are drinking, not drinking too much and going hell for leather like I used to. Bank holiday in the sunshine is unbeatable, but it's so much better sober, guys. So yeah, just enjoy it sensibly. I'm not going to do the whole drink responsibly thing because you all know that I know that that's a load of bullshit. It shouldn't be on bottles. It should be warnings as to how dangerous it actually is. So anyway, before I go off on a rant, I'd just love to say thank you to Paul Harris, who's just been a guest on the podcast. Great conversation with Paul. We've been following each other since October 2020, so I was literally like 2-3 months sober, I think, at that point. Paul is he's 11 years sober, so doing amazingly. We discuss kind of working environment. Paul worked in the steel industry, just really kind of talking about how everything just revolved around drink. He'd go abroad on kind of business meetings, and anything done, decisions and all that were kind of done in the pub or out at restaurants where, big money involved and big drinking involved. So, it was a really, really kind of tough environment. I mean, he kind of obviously was steeped in that and enjoyed it at the time, but it had its kind of downfall, and it led Paul to some really, really dark places. So, a couple of trigger warnings within the episode, so just take care when listening to it. It's just I do want to get people on here that are, grey area drinkers and just having a negative impact on their life with the alcohol, but also, I do want to stress that does lead to places like where I was, like where Paul is, and a few others on the podcast. So it's really just a kind of listen for the similarities, listen for the warnings that if alcohol is, if you think alcohol is causing a problem in your life, then it more or less is causing a problem in your life. If you're already questioning that, then chances are it's causing an issue, and there is an issue there. So, as always, listen for the similarities and not the differences. Enjoy, guys. Thank you. Good morning, Paul. Welcome to After Hours, mate. How are you this morning?
I'm well, Jimmy. I'm very well. Thanks for having me on, pal. I'm feeling good, feeling chipper. Beautiful weather we're having lately, which is all good.
Do you know what? Like, we're British, so we talk about the weather. I've just sat here and I've got a skylight, and it just started absolutely chucking it down a minute ago, and I was like, "What? We're in the middle of a heat wave. What's going on here?" So,
That's it.
yeah. Well, it's the sun's come out now,
Right.
so it's all right. It's all right, man. Yeah. So,
No,
Paul,
last few days have been pretty good. Pretty good, but long may it continue. Go ahead.
Oh, absolutely, mate. So yeah, as I say, we've been following each other for a number of years, but this is the first time we're really touching base. So
Yeah.
it's funny with with Instagram and that you can kind of follow people and you can get to know them without actually having a chat. Do you know what I mean? Like you like people's posts, comment, and all that. So I feel like I know you, but let's go back a bit. Let's hear a bit about your childhood and how was that, and when you had your first drink, really.
Yeah, sure. I get asked this a lot, and my childhood, it was pretty good. There was nothing serious there, nothing bad. Yeah, there was a lot of love in the house. The only one thing was that my mother was an alcoholic.
Right.
Okay, so from a young age, God, that's all I seem to remember of my mum. You know what I mean? And at first it was all nice and, happy, drunk and all that. But as time went on, it just progressively went into, a mean drunk and what have you. But they're being brought up in that environment. It sounds silly, but it was a loving environment. We weren't short of money.
Hmm.
It was all pretty good. Me and my two brothers. But as time went on, as years went on, it got more and more tougher. And so we had, that was the thing that we were brought up in. But overall, we moved from places to places,
Hmm.
school, everything, college, fine, fine.
Yeah.
But my mother was an alcoholic. She was an alcoholic, and we had to adapt with that and live with that. Now, did that have any bearing on me being an alcoholic? I think it has a knock-on effect. Okay,
Hmm. Hmm.
I think it has a knock-on effect. I think it's certainly it can be hereditary. It can be in the genes. Um, but I had my first drink when I was about 12 or 15, I think. The
Hmm.
old school field and all that,
Yeah.
cider and all that. And
Getting some
yeah,
older
I
guy to
thought,
go in and get booze for us and all that stuff as well. Yeah.
yes. Well, yeah, I used to always try it myself, obviously, and they used to just look at me going, "Oh, but yeah, you got to
Yeah.
try it, you got to
How,
try these things."
sorry, Paul,
Aye.
how old are you? How old are you? So what era are we talking? Like 80s,
I
90s?
am. I'm. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I look here. That's right. Yeah. I'm 51 in September. I was 50 last year.
Right, okay.
So, started drinking around about the time. I got sober just before I hit 40.
Hmm.
But, I'm digressing. We'll come back on to that. So early childhood was good. Okay, it
Hmm.
was good, but tough. And any child of an alcoholic will admit this, that it's always tough to see that. And, inevitably, we'll probably move on to this as well. We watched her drink herself to death.
Right.
Back in 2019, she succumbed to it. But alcoholism, addiction, it goes to show that it can linger and linger and linger. And it got to when she was 70. You know what I mean? But anyway, so, yeah, my early drinking days started 13, 14, and that was about it. Normal. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just going out, not going out, but sneaking drinks here, sneaking drinks there, taking a bit of this, doing a bit of that.
Hmm.
Then,
Hmm.
obviously, in teens, my early teens, everything really started to take off. 90s kid,
Yeah.
noughties kid, you
Yeah.
know, sex, drugs, rock and roll. And it
Ah, yeah.
really, really, yeah, just again, I have no regrets of all that. Good
No.
times,
Good times,
good
yeah.
times. And I took every drug known to man. I mean, I was seriously into some hardcore drugs at one point.
Right.
Um, but you know what? Alcohol. Alcohol was the one that got me.
Yeah. And it
Alcohol was the one
seems
that got me.
it seems to be the same story, I mean, I didn't take every drug, but I took a fair whack of them. And the 90s where it was the
Yeah,
party pills, it was the coke, it was like acid, it was all
yeah,
that kind of thing.
yeah,
But alcohol was always the main kind of culprit for me. It would always
yeah,
be the one that I would go back to. And it's legal.
yeah.
You can buy it in any high street corner.
That's the thing.
You can buy it in petrol
That's the
stations
thing.
now. It's
That's the thing. It's easily accessible, and I think that's why so many get addicted to it and hooked on it. But you know, like I say to many, many followers and clients, some people can take that
yeah,
drink and leave it. Some can't. I was one of them for sure. I think it was like mid-20s when it really started to get a grip on me.
right.
Yeah, really, really got a grip on me,
And
and
what were
it
you
just it
doing?
takes.
What were you doing? Kind of working wise and all of that?
Well, work, I point the finger at work sometimes because I was in the steel industry
Right.
and from a very early age, from 17, 18 onwards, and I just worked my way up. And in the 90s, late 90s, 2000s, it was just such a drink orientated industry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Everything revolved around a pint. Everything was dinner time, a drink, going abroad to meet suppliers, a drink. It was totally unknown to not be drinking in that industry.
And I
Okay.
suppose, like a lot of people worry now that they've given up drink, you couldn't almost get along in that job. You'd probably be passed up on promotions if you weren't a drinker. But as you're saying, it was unheard of to be a
In,
non-drinker in those
in,
days.
in them days, I didn't know it at the time. Nobody did. You know what I mean? It was just a normal. It was just a normal. But to think back now to how it was, to how things are now,
Yeah.
it's so different. Things are changing massively
Hmm.
on the drinking scene, which is good because there's more awareness. People like myself, you, plenty of us out there, and we're spreading the good word about, listen, watch yourself.
And I
But
think a lot of
back in them days,
companies, sorry, Paul, I think a
well,
lot of companies now they have a
yeah,
kind of what's the word, due diligence to kind
yeah,
of take care of the
yeah,
people's mental health. And let's be honest,
yeah,
alcoholism and drug abuse, it is a mental health issue, so
yes,
you can't
yes,
just go, oh
yes,
well, you've obviously got a problem, right? We're going to fire you. Do you know what I mean? It's not the way that it's
yeah.
done now. Yeah,
Not now, but back in the day, I lost my job through it. I
right.
lost the, 'cause I turned up one day, uh, totally out of my trolley on drink, because I'd just been drinking morning, noon, and night. That's where it got to for years. And I took the company car in, and I was just sat at the desk, and I used to hide it well. I used to
Yeah,
hide it very well. But this one particular day, a friend of mine had died, and I just lost the plot, and I just went blah, 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 yeah. I was wobbling all over the place, and he just pulled me and they suspended me, and I didn't, they didn't take lightly on it,
yeah,
and
yeah.
just they terminated everything I'd done. But
And how
it's a
old were
shame
you at that
because,
point, Paul? How old was
sorry.
how old were you at that point?
That I was about 36 then, I think. Yeah,
Okay, okay,
36,
yeah,
36-ish. That's right. Yeah, that was towards the end.
yeah,
That was at the peak, the
yeah,
absolute peak, you know, major active alcohol addiction.
yeah,
I needed it to get out of bed. I
yeah.
needed it, I had vodka next to the bed. I had to get out. I needed it to get out of bed. I needed it to, daft it sounds, get in the car to go to
Mhm.
work because I
Yeah,
couldn't function. I
yeah,
could not function. And, that for a good 3 years or so, Jimmy, that's how much of a grip it had on me. And
yeah,
it got to a very, very dark place. But just going back to the work thing, I was doing very well. I got to the top of my game. I was general manager. I had,
right.
people under. Yeah, did very well. But the pressures of that job just got unbearable sometimes. And, I do point the finger at the job sometimes. I relied on drink to get through certain parts of that job, the meetings, so stressful at times. And you're talking big numbers,
Hmm.
financially that we're doing deals on. And it just took over. But like I say, everybody else are doing it.
Yeah.
Right. And I do know people in that industry who got caught out of it.
Mhm.
And I know people who died from it in that industry. And but I do also know people who are in that industry who took it and leave it and could just go to bed, and that
Yeah.
was it. You know what I mean? But it took its toll on me, and yeah, that's a bit of history of the work situation and what have you.
I mean, I think sometimes it was back in the day, it was looked upon as a weakness if you were, as
Oh
much as
yeah,
I hate the word alcoholic, if you were dependent
yeah,
on it, obviously
yeah,
weren't doing it right and you weren't man
yeah,
enough to kind of
yeah.
get a control of it. So it was a weakness. And it's like, that's not the
Yeah,
case at
yeah.
all. It's a drug.
Oh, yeah, exactly. And like I say, in them days, it wasn't heard of. You're frowned upon if you were drinking. Then you might as well not be there. Simple
Yeah.
as that.
Yeah.
You know
Yeah.
what I mean? It just weren't the thing. It just weren't the thing. If you're going to go there with two arms and two legs and a head, as per normal, then you're going to drink as well. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's just a not right thing to do.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
if you weren't drinking, there had to be a bloody good reason, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But again, I was in that state of mind in them days. I did not care. I wanted to drink. The do, the function, the event, the occasion, the person, drink, drink, drink. It
Yeah.
had to be. We
But
organise things around a drink. It had
yeah.
to happen.
But it made everything easier as well, didn't it? Because I mean, I suppose like you, like me, we've been drinking since we were like early teens, so we use that as a crutch to,
Yeah, yeah,
adapt to social situations. So if you're going out
yeah,
and you want to be, I don't know, the funniest man, the most interesting man in the room, when you're clearly
yeah,
not, but you think that
yeah,
the alcohol's
yeah,
helping you to do that, and it's
yeah.
madness. Yeah.
It was, and that's the trickster that it is. It makes us believe that we are the funniest, and it gives you that false sense of security. It gives you that false confidence. Let's
Yeah.
say it's a drug.
Yeah.
Any drug would do. Any drug does
Absolutely.
that to you. Makes you into something else. It makes you this. I don't know, but knowledge is power, and what
Yeah.
we know now, in comparison to what we totally was ignorant to back in them days. It's incredible. It's incredible. I mean, if I could, I often say to a lot of people, my clients and what have you, if I could do my work life,
Hmm.
in the steel industry again,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
on the head that I have now,
Yeah.
the clarity, everything, the how clear and how more energetic and how
Focus.
more
Yeah.
I'm with it. And I got good at my job in them
Yeah.
days. I think I would have been absolutely smashed it out of the park
Oh,
if I was in this kind of mindset. You and me.
without a doubt, yeah,
And,
because we've got more
and
clarity, more focus,
oh, you
more,
are.
yeah, and more get up and
And
go. Do you know what I mean? Waking up in the
oh,
morning on a Monday
oh
morning and
man.
going into work,
Oh,
absolutely
you are.
hanging, or in your case,
Oh,
in my case, having a drink before we're going in.
yes. Yeah.
It's yeah.
It's
I used to call it my sober level. So towards the end, this wasn't obviously my whole career in drinking, but
yeah.
like towards the end, I would need at least a quarter or a half bottle of vodka in the morning to be able to like
Yeah.
have food, have a shower, get ready, do stuff. Otherwise, I was useless. I
Yeah.
couldn't function, you know?
We were very similar there, mate. Very
Yeah.
similar.
And
And
that's the
that's it.
dependence.
And that's the dependence. That's where you are totally, you then got the addiction. The addiction
Yeah.
is in you. It's dangerously. We can't really. I tried on a couple of occasions
Yeah. Yeah.
to to come off it, but on them couple of occasions, I was in hospital.
Yeah.
Yeah, the shock just went through me, and I was shaking like a leaf, and I was beyond uh, getting a drink down with them, because I
Hmm.
was, I was just that bad.
Yes.
Ambulance took me in, and that was
Seizures.
twice.
Did you have any seizures?
Uh, I didn't actually have a full seizure, but I was basically the doctor at the hospital said if I hadn't got in at the time that I did, a seizure was on its way, and that could have ended, you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
drastically. And they're the days that I think of now. They're the days I think of now and think, I'm 11 years sober, and every now and then that devil's on my shoulder. Okay, I
Yeah.
won't lie, it's on my shoulder at times. But I have the practice now. I have I have the experience of
Yeah.
just looking at it and swearing at it. I won't swear on here, but telling it
Well,
to
you can
off.
swear, mate. It's
I
no
just tell it
problem.
to off. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
I just laugh at it now, and that's the advice I give to all my clients out there. Just look at it, laugh at it, and say, and just think, do I want to go back there?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It turns my stomach really now to think about it, but just going back to the hospital thing, and the doctors around the bed, and they're all like scratching their faces, and they're looking at me because I was in a bad way. And the first time it happened, Jimmy, I didn't learn my lesson. I
Yeah.
went, I went and did it. I went and did it all again. I
Yeah.
did it all again. And the doctor what an update, wanted a check on me, so we did some more bloods, and I went back, and I was drinking still,
Yeah.
massively. Uh,
Yeah.
and when I went back to the doctor said to me, he slammed the door behind me. I'll never forget it. It's on a lot of my posts, and it's on my story and what have
Yeah.
you. And he slammed the door behind me, and he just sat down, and the look he gave me, I thought, ooh, I was drunk at the time,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
whatever. And he goes, Paul, if you don't stop, you're gonna die. Okay. He said, what are you doing? What are you doing? And he just looked me straight in the face. 'Cause I've known him many years, but I think he's just he was getting fed up with seeing people just killing themselves through this. And I think it came to a point with him. He just, Paul, what are you doing? You know, he didn't swear, but he weren't far from it.
Yeah.
And I was drunk. He goes, "You're gonna die." He said, "You're gonna die, and you'll die soon." And I was drunk, and I says to him, "Well, blah blah. How long will that take then?" Because I really didn't give a
Yeah.
shit.
Well, you
To
were
be
pissed as
honest with
well, weren't you? You know, you're not really
you.
thinking. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. But Jimmy, I left that room.
Hmm.
I think I had another hospital visit after that. But them words stuck with me. Them words did stick with me. You're gonna die. You're gonna die soon. And after the next hospital visit, that was it. Enough was enough. I had to go and get help, and I managed to find the strength to get help. And then the sobriety journey kicked in.
And what help did you get? Did you go to meetings, or what's your
Well,
kind of method of sobriety and recovery?
I what happened with me, taking around this is 11 years ago, and things have changed slightly in different things, but 11 years ago, me and my wife, you know, she came with me to the doctors, and I had to turn around and say to the doctor, I've got a drink problem. Okay,
Hmm. Hmm.
there's no denying this now, and it was scary at times. I've got a drink problem, and she referred me to an institution, still knocking about now, Turning Point.
I've heard of that. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And
Because are you in
yeah,
Leeds?
Turning Point, Yorkshire. Yeah, it was based in Castleford,
Yeah,
where
yeah, yeah,
I
yeah,
where
yeah.
I went. Castleford stroke Pontefract, and I think you know sometimes you just drop on these people, and I got talking to this lovely guy, John, and I weren't for AA. I tried AA, okay,
Hmm.
and it
Hmm.
wasn't for me.
No, no,
I'm
that's
not
yeah, I
knocking
get
it.
that.
It works for people. It just wasn't for me. So I preferred the one-on-one thing, and I got I got talked to this. But initially, sorry, Turning Point, they did like a home rehab
Yeah.
for me. I didn't actually go to an issue. I had the choice, but it was all
Hmm.
about finances. But in them days, they did a home rehab where they came out to my address.
Hmm.
They did blood tests, they did breathalyzers, they put me on medication to stop the withdrawals, and it was very hands-on.
Yeah,
And you
yeah,
know,
yeah.
it was very good. And we had 3 months of that. And John was my, let's say, my contact, and we
Hmm.
just had one-on-ones. He was a, you know, ex whatever,
Yeah, yeah,
and that's where it all started for me, and that's how I got into it.
yeah.
But I always say there's a certain point where all that pretty much stops, you know, the medication and what have you, and you can still talk to people, you can still decide, but you do have to start fending for yourself and start getting out there and hitting this
Living.
sobriety.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you've got to
exactly,
start living.
exactly,
That's it. Yeah.
exactly. And then them days, this Instagram community weren't about and
No.
things like that. And I don't know, everybody's different, but I don't know, something clicked in me. Okay,
Hmm.
something
Hmm.
clicked in me that I never wanted to see death's door and feel as horrendous as I did. I mean,
Yeah.
I'll never forget being there one day and I thought, this is it. I literally thought I was going to die. This is it. And I don't
And
know, it
I
was
think
quite a
when
peaceful
people
thing.
and I think when people think that, you know, I've had a lot of
Yeah,
you know, guests on, and people in the past have told me that things like that. And I think that in your body telling you that, you're not far off of it. Do you know what I mean? Because alcohol it
yeah,
is a killer, and you probably weren't that far away from it. So,
yeah.
you know, it's that
It
instinct
felt like a
that
sick,
looks
it felt
over
like
you.
a sick, yeah. It felt like a sixth sense. It felt like
Mm.
another voice going on saying, "Yeah, this is it. If you
Yeah.
don't pull yourself back now, you're not going to come back." And I truly believe that if I carried on, you know,
Yeah.
you'd be saying, I
I'd be
think we'll all
exactly the
say that.
same. We wouldn't be here.
Yeah,
We wouldn't be here, Paul.
we
And
wouldn't.
that's it. You
We
know.
wouldn't. We wouldn't. I can honestly say, you know, like yourself, myself, plenty of us out there. We haven't done what we've done. There'd
Yeah.
be a few less of us about, and it's,
And
you
I
know,
think that whole, like, you know, I've trained to be a peer mentor, and it's that whole
yeah,
wisdom, if you want to call it wisdom, or life experience, lived experience, coming
yeah,
from ex, you know,
yeah,
people in our
yeah,
situation. is
Yeah,
paramount, because me at the beginning, I
it
didn't want to
is.
listen to someone that had had a degree or, versed in alcoholism or drug addiction. I didn't want
Yeah,
if they'd not been through
yeah.
it, I didn't want to listen to them. I was definitely
No,
belligerent, but
I know.
in in retrospect, in hindsight, I'm like, yeah, that
Yeah,
that is the key for
yeah.
most people to get through it, to listen, whether
That's
it be
it.
meetings, AA, Smart,
Yeah,
NA, or
yeah,
one-to-one. It's got to be someone that's been
yeah,
there.
yeah. It is, and I'm glad you touched on that because it's very, very true. And I have people contacting me who have been to these. Like, again, I will never knock anything because something somewhere works for somebody. But yeah, there's plenty that come to me say, I just want to speak to somebody who's been there,
Yeah,
and I've not learned this out of a book. I haven't got a degree in all this, and it's just all life's experience. you know, it's experience. Experience, but what I've gone through, what I've seen. My brother, my mother, good friends just wasted away with it. You know what I
yeah,
mean? And I very nearly wasted away from it. And it's a killer. It is a major killer, and we know that from the facts and figures out there.
yeah,
There's no hiding from it. It's one of the biggest killers out there, but it's legal.
yeah,
It's sociably accepted.
yeah,
But that's the world. That's the world we live in.
yeah,
And the point I just try to make across is that you don't have to follow that crowd anymore. You
yeah,
don't have to follow that crowd. You're not missing anything. You're gaining so much more. You if you have been a drinker most of your life, it's never too late. To call it a day. You've done it. You've been there. You've seen it. You wore a t-shirt. Come on.
yeah, yeah. Exactly. And I mean, I think like, the 80s and 90s, I've said it on here before, they've got a lot to
Yeah.
answer for, because that whole cultural TV, media,
Yeah.
music, everything was just steeped in alcohol and drugs. And if you weren't doing it, you weren't
Oh,
cool. You
you
weren't
are.
part of the in crowd. And,
Yeah.
things are
Exactly.
changing.
They are changing a bit, like you say, back in the club days,
Yeah.
music was associated with drugs. There's no
Yeah.
choice about it. And even now when the old bangers come on, and we all get talking about it, say, well, there's
Yeah.
no way we would have enjoyed this back in the day,
No,
without
no.
without the happy pills and ecstasy and all that and everything. It was the DJs back in our days used to encourage, right, take your pill now because I'm going to start putting on some. Yeah,
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
all
Yeah. Yeah.
associated. These
And I mean, it
days,
took it took me a wee while before I could actually start listening to some of the bangers, as you put it, again. Do you know what I mean? Some of the techno music that I used to listen to,
yeah,
it
yeah,
was a very triggering first year for me. And now, do you know what? I
yeah,
appreciate it much more.
yeah,
I do, because
yeah,
it's like, oh yeah, I can hear this
very
bit
much.
and that bit. Yeah,
Very much the same. And now it's like it's good memories. You know, what I mean, I do enjoy
yeah,
the good memories, but it's just times have changed. It's like exactly what you said there, Jimmy. Times are changing big time. To look at a big, let's call it a rave,
yeah, yeah,
back in
yeah.
our day, yeah, no phones, nothing. It was
No,
just
nothing.
pure euphoria and just. You look at a, let's call it a rave again these
Yeah, yeah,
days,
yeah,
and it's just a bunch of people with phones. You know what I
yeah,
mean? And it's different, but in a way, it's changing. It's changing for the better. There's the younger generation now coming through. Their look and their view on drinking. Let's just go with a drink for now.
hmm
Is different. It's different to when we were that age. Yeah,
Absolutely,
it's
absolutely.
I think, and I really do think that's through the good work of what we do, what
Hmm.
us lot do. We spread the good word that be careful.
Yeah,
You must spot the signs.
yeah,
If dependency's creeping in, you've got to do it. And I think the young ones today, I've got nieces, 20 odd, and they barely touch it.
yeah.
They barely touch it. Barely
It's
touch it because they see what it does to them. They see what it did to me. They see what it did to the grandma. It's and people are more aware of it now, and it's good to see. I like to see that, but there's still a lot of
still a lot of people.
trouble.
Well, you go
Yeah,
out on a Friday and Saturday night, Paul, and it's like, I don't go out that much now, but if you are out in the town for a meal or whatever and you
yeah,
see it,
yeah,
the bars are still chock full, even over here. But the thing is, with
yeah,
the kids, as you say, they are. they are more aware because they've got their phones and they're Googling everything and they
Yeah,
can if they
yeah.
Google like when we were younger, I mean I smoked, I don't know if you were a smoker, but there was a lot of people
Yeah,
at school that were like, oh no, God, no, I'm not going to smoke because smoking's bad for you. I knew it was bad for me, but I knew it was also cool as
yeah.
fuck. Do you know what I mean? It was
Exactly,
like,
exactly.
so
And
I
that's
did
what
it.
it was. And yeah,
But now
yeah.
it's
And
like
that's,
the alcohol is coming through as people are saying,
yes,
this is really bad for you. So I think a larger number of
yeah,
people are kind of adhering to that and going,
yeah.
right, I'm going to stop. I'm not going to drink because it's
There
going
is,
to kill me, and that
there
is,
is, there is. I see. I still, we still go out. We would still go to pubs every now and then. Not done a club there for a long time, but I have done them sober. I've
yeah,
been
yeah,
in
yeah,
there, I've
yeah,
done them sober,
absolutely.
and
Yeah.
I was very curious. It's at one point to get out there and look at the big bad world and do everything sober that I once done off my head or drunk. That's kind of something I push myself into. It can be risky for some, but
Yeah.
you know, I encourage clients to try and you know not so not it don't trigger them, but to try and see the world what they once did, and you can still you can see what you used to do, and what I notice more now is the young ones. It's not like how it was for us. It's
Mm.
just very rarely do I see them falling all over and being an absolute mess and what have you compared to what we were. I really do think that the 20-year old ones plus, and the younger ones are really coming through to a
Yeah.
different dimension now. And I think as long as we keep doing and making people aware of that, I think that will stick.
I think,
Because
go on.
no, so I'm just going to just move on to the non-alcohol industry. I mean,
No, I mean,
that's just booming, booming.
yeah, and I think the kids are they're very, very, not the word self-conscious, they're very self-aware. Do you know what I mean? With the advent
Yeah,
of being able to film and record, and everybody wants to be an influencer, so they're very aware
yeah,
of how their self-image comes across. I'm not saying we
yeah,
weren't back in the day, but we weren't like every day you walked out onto the town, you weren't being filmed and you weren't being photographed. Do you know what I mean? So it's like they're very aware of that.
yeah.
Um, so yeah,
Well,
so do you use alcohol-free stuff at all then? You were going to say about that?
Right, so going into the alcohol-free things, you can see now clearly it's huge business and lots are doing it, the older generation and the younger generation. And, I, at first, I'll be honest with you, when I first stopped drinking, wouldn't touch it.
No.
Okay, I don't know, I fell out with alcohol, anything to do with alcohol,
Hmm.
um, anything at all. I really got myself into a mindset, and that's what I try to pass on
Hmm.
to clients in their early sobriety. You just fall out of it. Don't fall out of it. You don't. It nearly killed me. It's caused a lot of upset with my life, my family's life. So at first I didn't, but now, yeah, I do. Yeah, I
Yeah.
do. I have no problem with having an alcohol-free thing. And you know what? In some areas, for people in early sobriety, and I do have clients, they help. They
Yeah.
really do help a lot of people. But it's each to their own. I am not recommending it, but I'm saying if it works for you, do it. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
I'm fine with it now. I am fine with it.
And I
But
think
I have no. Go on.
I think there's two camps on that because like yourself,
Yeah, I know.
like I mean waking up in the morning drinking vodka, I was like, what am I getting from these? Like I had a few at the beginning and I thought, and actually in rehab they said to us stay away from them. But I think I'd had a few and I was
Yeah,
like, what am I actually doing this for? Because I found myself only getting triggered by them and want because I thought like the
yeah,
reason why I drank wasn't for the flavor, it was to get absolutely shit faced. Do you know what I
absolutely.
mean? So why would I
Uh,
be drinking this for the flavor? But then there are
yeah,
people who are,
yeah,
you know, grey area drinkers or kind of sober
yeah,
curious. And I think for them that's a great tool to get themselves to kind of just have that
yeah,
bridging gap between,
yeah,
giving up alcohol
yeah.
because they're probably not dependent on it. They're just finding that
No,
their life has been negatively impacted. So why not use
exactly.
those as a kind of little helping
Yeah,
hand to get sober?
yeah,
I'm all for that.
yeah.
The
I
price has
agree
gone
with
up
it.
though.
Oh, you what? You what? But yeah. I totally agree with that. And you know, with it's down to the individual. They have to know what it's doing, and they can work, but
Yeah,
just you know, tread carefully because it can be a trigger for some. And
of course.
you know,
Yeah.
I have seen that. You know, I've got a client, and he's 12 months alcohol free, and all he drinks daily now is alcohol free stuff. Now,
Mm,
it's madness how the mind can adjust itself. Okay,
yeah.
but he's like it's like cross addiction. So you know, it's careful. But he will not touch a drop of the real McCoy, but
Yeah.
now drinking adult time. So I don't know, it swings and roundabouts. But hey, I suppose if you're not drinking yourself to death on the real stuff,
Then yeah,
I don't
you
know.
know,
But
but I know what you're saying.
everybody has to find their way, don't they? But
And I can
yeah,
see from your
price.
point of view, you're kind of a bit worried on that because you're thinking, oh, what if something, you know, nefarious happens in his life, and then it's like he's already
Yeah,
using that as a bit of a crutch. I remember there
yeah.
was a girl who was in rehab with me, and
Mm,
she was about, well, she was on and off. She couldn't seem to get it cracked, and then at Christmas time, she was like, right, this is it. I think she was about a month sober at Christmas time. This was going back 5 years ago, and
yeah, yeah,
she went out at Christmas to go and get herself from Sainsbury's like a bottle of Prosecco. So she came home with that,
yeah,
and her mum
yeah,
went absolutely nuts and said, "What are you doing with this?" And she
yeah,
said, "It's alcohol free. It's
yeah.
alcohol free." So her mum said, "No, you're not having it." Took it away from her.
No,
Then she found
yeah,
herself getting really, really worked up, and I thought, "But that's not alcohol. So
no,
why are you getting worked up over
no.
not having that? You know, you might as
It's
well
it,
just have
it's
water. It's
it's
insane."
it's such a fine line in some areas and all that. In one camp, like you say, it's great, it's brilliant. You know, it's like a placebo. It really
Yeah,
does take people away from the real stuff,
yeah,
and it can be a lifesaver for some. It can be a godsend for some.
yeah,
But for others, I think for the others, they're not 100% sure if they want to stop completely. So they'll have that just to ease the blow. And before you know it, they're getting back onto it. So it's
yeah,
very mix and match. And my advice is that it's just you've got to judge it yourself and know how you're reacting to it. And it
yeah.
works for some, it
And I
doesn't work
think
for others.
But also, I think the whole mental aspect of it is like when you're out at a party or a nightclub or even
Yeah,
just in a bar or
that's
restaurant
it.
to have something
Yeah,
that looks like an
yeah,
alcoholic drink. Now, that's
yeah.
ridiculous if you think about it. Why should we care what other
I know.
people think? But we do,
No,
you know.
no.
I mean, I don't
I know.
anymore, but I know what people are like, and they're like, "Oh, I've got to have a look
Yeah,
like if I've got a pint or a bottle or whatever." And it's
yeah.
like, you don't know. Nobody cares what you're drinking. They really don't. They
What?
only care what they're drinking themselves.
Well, I made it. I used to make it a point where I used to still go see some of my friends in the pub. Yeah,
Hmm.
and you know, I got that bullish about it. I would order a cup of coffee at the bar while they were
Yeah,
all in pints, and I would stand with them in a circle because I was just determined to let people know that I don't care.
yeah,
Of course, I did. I felt a bit at first,
yeah,
but I pushed myself and I pushed myself, and I would stand there with a cup of coffee while they had
yeah,
a few pints,
yeah,
and you know things like that. And yeah, why should we care about that? But it's just what tuned into, you
yeah.
know, as we're growing up. But going on the pricing, as you say, yeah, I mean, I've been to a few places now, and my God, some
Mhm.
of these alcohol-free drinks, uh, wow,
Yeah.
you know
They're
what
the
I mean?
same as a
£5 a
pint.
bottle.
Yeah, same as a
Oh
pint.
yeah,
And it's
they
like
are, they are,
go,
and they're cashing in.
going back to what you're saying about hating alcohol. I hate alcohol companies, big alcohol. You know, I'm
Yeah,
loath to put money in their pocket. That's why I don't really touch alcohol-free
yeah,
stuff now. I do have the
yeah,
odd. I've still got a few left
yeah,
over, but it's because
yeah,
when I first,
yeah,
this was years ago, and I think I went and bought a bottle of Nanny State for a friend because he was leaving work, and it was that Brewdog
yeah,
Nanny State, and I think it was like £1.50 for a bottle, and I bought it for him at work because it was his
yeah,
last day, and I thought, oh, you can drink this at work, you know, because it's alcohol free. Now one of those is probably about
yeah,
£4, and that's not inflation; it's because they're
yes.
cashing in on it. Yeah.
They are cashing on it big time. It's big business now. It's
Oh,
huge
it's
business.
huge business.
I
Huge
mean, Guinness.
business.
I think Guinness have had to set up new warehouses and for the zero Guinness because that is probably the biggest seller of all. It's huge. Zero Guinness,
And I love it.
massive.
Don't get me wrong. I do like the zero Guinness. If I'm going out, it's one of them because
Yeah,
it's well, it's. I'm not going to say it's good for you, but what is it? It's got iron in it, isn't it?
but
So, yeah,
it is, and you get a you know people get a pint of that and they put it on the bar. Who knows the difference? And that's comforting for a lot of people. You know what I mean? They
It
just,
is.
you
Yeah.
know, that takes the edge off for a lot of people, doesn't it? Sometimes. So
Yeah.
again, each to their own.
Yeah.
We've got
Of
to
course.
do what works for you, and then you know, but you know, we just got to be cautious in areas.
Yeah. And so when would you say was your darkest moment in your kind of drinking heady days then, hedonistic days?
The darkest moment was one morning. I think this is on my website and all that.
Hmm.
One morning I woke up, and you know how you plan your days ahead with drink. Yeah,
Yeah.
you've got, you know where you've hidden a bottle, you know where you've done this. Well,
Yeah. Yeah.
one day I was particularly drunk. Yeah, or
Yeah.
a lot of shit going on, and I forgot. I got back up and I forgot to get some drink for the next day. I
Oh,
always had a bottle of vodka for the next day,
yeah.
right? And so I passed out that night, and I woke up. But was the lowest I'd ever felt. I felt, and the withdrawals were kicking in, and
Hmm.
I was at in such a way. I thought I was shaking that much. My heart was going that fast. I phoned 111 at the time, I think, and they were encouraging me to just to sip something. You know, and they were like telling me what to do on the phone, and I had to put the phone down. I was shaking. I couldn't stand up. I was in such a mess because nobody
Hmm.
else was in the house. The
Yeah.
wife had
Yeah.
gone out. I was just there by myself. I thought, I'm gonna die here all by myself. My
Oh,
wife's gonna
Jesus.
come back, find me dead on the floor. You know what? Know what just come to mind? Aftershave.
Oh, yeah.
Aftershave came to mind, and I don't know. I just went to the cupboard, got a bottle of my aftershave out, unscrewed it, gulped it down,
Oh, Jesus. The
gulped it
whole
down
thing.
because it might pretty much, pretty
Yeah.
much. Now, it made me feel sick as a dog, but psychologically, it stopped me a bit. It stopped me shaking a bit.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Yeah.
I managed to get dressed. I managed to get my shoes on. I managed to get around the corner to that shop to buy myself a bottle of vodka to get back.
Wow.
That's the lowest
Yeah.
I've been. That's the story I'll always tell. Yeah. Then I had my hospital visits after that. So that was desperate. That's
Well,
desperation
it's
beyond.
depraved. It's depraved, isn't it? And
Yeah,
I remember a story, and then I went to AA when I was living in Hull, and it didn't stick.
yeah,
I wasn't looking for the similarities and not the differences. And there was a guy
yeah,
there who was telling a story, and he was I think he was in his 70s at this point, and he was all gnarled and just ravaged.
yeah,
His story was that at his lowest, he drank boot polish. So he'd managed to do something by boiling this boot polish up. I didn't even know there was alcohol in boot polish, but I guess there is. And
I have
he
heard
he
that. I have
boiled it
heard.
up. I
Yeah,
mean, it absolutely wrecked his stomach and his lining,
yeah,
and he's on all sorts
yeah,
of medication. But that's how bad he got. And it's the
yeah.
things we do. Like you and I, we're
Desperation.
normal guys. We wouldn't do that. Why would we drink
No,
aftershave
no,
or? I
no.
drank
Exactly.
mouthwash. Mouthwashes that got alcohol in
Yeah,
it, and
yeah. Exactly.
so I
Exactly.
wasn't
And that.
actually drinking it because it was
Mm,
alcoholic. I was drinking, but then I was drinking mouthwash so that the my partner wouldn't smell it on me. And instead of just
yeah,
spitting it out, I was just swallowing it. I didn't realize. And so the days that I was doing that, I was completely like a different type of drunk. Do you know what I mean? It was like off the
yeah,
scale from what I'd normally been drinking, and it was like
yeah.
because
Oh, it's
the
scary. Scary. I
mouthwash.
mean, there's one plus to it though, Jimmy. I mean, it was CKB, and it made my breath smell gorgeous.
I'll
That's
bet it
that's the
did.
that that's the standard joke I have with
Yeah,
it all. You know what I mean? I try
yeah,
to lighten the moment, but
of
I
course.
once saw that. But it was CKB. It was good aftershave, to be fair.
It's
And
expensive
it made me.
drink.
I was gutted. You know what I mean? I was straight down the hatchet. But yeah, joking aside, it psychologically, I'm not even sure if it did anything for me, but
Yeah,
psychologically, I had something in me, and when
yeah,
you
yeah,
just feel steady.
absolutely.
It's that's the addiction. That is crazy, 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 crazy.
So I
That's
told the
why I
story. Go on, yeah.
go. No, I just say that's why I do what I do now, and I, you know, I put across that story many times when people say, "No, I could never get that bad. I could never do that." And
Well,
I've
I
been that
think,
person saying that.
and I think I had someone, I did a story the other day. There was a person who I'm trying to get on the podcast, and they're going to come on. But sent me a voice note saying, "Oh, I don't think I'm quite as bad as some of the people you've maybe had on your podcast and this, that, and other." I said, "No, I said like that's absolutely fine. That's exactly what I want because, likes of
Exactly.
yourself, likes of me, and other people on the podcast, yeah, worst case scenario almost, but." I want people to
Mm.
recognize that there is a
Yes.
way out early days on. Do you
Yes.
know what I mean? Like
That's it.
where you're noticing it's having a negative impact in your life,
That's
and
it.
that's who I want
That's
this to kind of
exactly.
reach as well. So
That's exactly the point.
what is it you do now, Paul? You're a coach, are you?
What mentor? I like to just put it down as
Mentor.
mentor.
Yeah, yeah,
Mentor. Uh, there's a difference between mentor. There's a difference with coaching. Mentor is purely me passing on all my experiences.
yeah.
When I was drinking, what I did to get sober, what I did to stay sober, all
Hmm.
the hints and tips and inspiration that I learned and built into myself, and that is what I've set up now. I've sold the house. I live on a canal boat now with the
Nice.
missus. Two cats and a dog. I sold up because this was really starting to work out, and I'm now doing this full time. I just put all my energy into it, and yeah, it's everybody has their own way. You know what I mean? I will
Yeah,
not knock anybody. That's my way. It works for some, and it
yeah,
doesn't work for others. But
yeah,
it's purely expert by experience. That's it. And I have disclaimer on my website saying, "Listen, I'm not qualified at this. I'm not qualified at that. But what
hmm,
you're going to get is upfront, pure honesty of where I was
yeah.
and where we got to. And
And that's
there's people out there who take that on board. They come to me from AA saying it worked from them. They come to me from other people saying it worked for them. But I've no doubt people have gone from me to AA to say that works for
yeah,
them.
yeah,
You've got to find what's comfortable for you. And I'm just happy that I'm there, you're there, and there's other people there as a different avenue. Yeah,
yeah,
because
yeah,
the waiting list to help people out these days makes me sick to the stomach.
yeah,
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 it does. And I mean, one client was telling me that there 6 months or something like that, and people can literally kill themselves in that 6 months. And I just want to be another avenue, and that's where we are. You know what I mean? And I'll boldly say it has helped others. You know what I mean?
yeah, yeah. Hang on, Poppy, can you hear that?
No,
She's absolutely my cat. She's just woken up. She's absolutely screaming at me. Sorry, Paul. She was. I thought you could
no,
hear
it's
that.
like
She sounded like a baby crying there. It was disgusting. It was
yeah,
like
no, our cat does the same. Our cat does the same, and
it's
he was just doing it early on. And I
it's
says
because
to the
we've
wife, I
just
says,
it's because I've just
yeah,
moved house, so she's kind of still waking up and going, "Where the
yeah,
hell am I?" And she's an old bird,
yeah.
so she's kind of like, "Ah!" So she just
Oh
needed comfort in
bless,
there. Sorry, Paul.
oh bless. Yeah, we
Yeah,
got two cats and a dog. You know what I mean? So it's fun and games at times, mate. But
yeah.
they love each other, and we love it. We love as pets, don't we? We
Well,
do
of
love our
course, and
pets.
that's it. She's been with me through thick and thin, like all my
Exactly.
house moves, my alcoholism. But what I was going to
Yeah,
say was
yeah,
going back there, Paul. It's like, I really respect what you're doing, and you're saying no qualifications, this and all that. It's lived experience and all that. But then you get these people that are
yeah,
showing up on Instagram, and they're like 2 months
yeah.
sober, and they're suddenly got all the answers, and it's like, right, I can get you sober in 90 days if you pay me £3,000. And I know that's an
Yeah,
extreme, but it's kind of
don't
like
don't get don't don't
you
get
know,
me going on that one, Jimmy. I'm
you've
telling you
got
that now.
you've got
Yeah,
11
yeah,
years worth of experience and knowledge, and you're not saying do what I did. You're saying, listen, this is what I did, and if it works for you,
yes,
then it works.
yeah,
If it doesn't,
exactly,
everybody's different and
exactly.
individual. But that
See,
really just winds
I,
me up.
I've stopped 100 times. Yeah,
Yeah,
the biggest challenge is staying stopped,
yeah,
and you've got to stay stopped. Once there's a problem there, you have to stay stopped. We can't bullshit ourselves with moderation and this
yeah,
that, anyway. We've got an issue with drink. We have to stay stopped, and that's why I do what I do, because I'm just passing on my experiences, my tips, my inspo of
yeah,
just staying stopped. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah, yeah,
when I see, yeah, you're right, whatever with all these others, but yeah, and I've been told some stories with some of the prices that are out there, and it's absolutely a
yeah,
joke, mate. But each to their own, and each to who they go to. Yeah,
yeah.
it's up to the individual. The bottom line is, it's down to them to find who they're comfortable with and who they're clicking with, and it's working for them, whatever that may be. Yeah,
Hmm.
whatever,
Hmm.
whatever keeps them sober, do it
Oh,
and do more of
absolutely.
it.
And that's the thing.
Yeah,
I just don't want people to be ripping people off when they're they're
no,
in a
no,
vulnerable,
no, no,
position. And that's the
no,
danger thing.
exactly,
So what one bit of
exactly.
advice would you give to someone that was kind of just about to start out on this kind of sober journey if they were just, sober curious or they need to give it up?
Well, if there's anybody listening to this right now, and they're thinking, uh, I need to look at this, I need to address my whatever's going on, because the bottom line is, if you're thinking there's a problem, there's a problem. We
Yeah.
know that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good old saying. If you're thinking, am I drinking too much, or am I, uh, if you're tallying up what you're drinking daily, if you look at, then there's an issue.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, straight away, yeah, there's an issue, and that's something I wish I'd learned. You know what I mean? I think we all knew, we deep down in the dark depths of our bellies, we knew there was something going on,
Oh
but we
yeah.
just wouldn't. We weren't bothered. Oh, we just left it. But
Yeah.
this day and age, my advice is please, please, please spot the early signs.
Hmm.
Spot the early signs, and it's tough. There's no embarrassment. There's no shame in this, and that's the problem. Half at times with, especially blokes and all that, the stigma is getting less and less.
Yeah.
I can say more and more. I'm speaking up, but people got to be bold. They've got to just step up, and I want them to listen to stories like this of you, me, everybody
Hmm.
else, and it can happen to them. It doesn't discriminate. It can happen to them. They can go from a high powered job to a bedsit, with family not even contacting them
Yeah.
anymore. It can go to that.
Yeah. It does. It can and it
Yeah,
does all the time. Yeah.
it does. And there's too many who think it can't. And there's
Hmm.
too many who put it off till next week, next month,
Yeah.
next year. But in that time, the addiction is a sneaky little bugger, and it's got deeper and deeper into them. And before I know it, just like myself, like
Hmm.
you, Jerry, it's got us big time. That drink devil is one mean mother. It
Yeah.
has no sympathy, and it will grab you and it will chew you up and it will spit you out. And that's why I'm very to the point about it. I mean, if you're going to come to me and you want to just calm down your drinking, I get it, I understand it. But if there's an issue, really spot the signs and really start thinking about, can I carry on like this?
Yeah.
Can I kid myself moving forward?
Yeah.
And do it now. Try and get that help and speak up and stop, because you won't regret it.
Yeah.
I don't know one person who's come to me after a year and said, I do miss that drinking like. I were feeling like shit again. I wish I was wobbling on a morning. I wish I was, no.
Yeah.
They all turn around and say, what a decision this has been.
Well,
They'll love it.
that's one of my questions, Paul. Do you regret getting sober? And I mean, it's obviously a
Oh,
silly
yeah.
question because you
Yeah,
know,
I do. Every day I wake up thinking, God, where's that shitty feeling and that
yeah,
wobble and feeling
yeah,
sick and head down the toilet? And whilst my head down is down there, I've got a bottle of vodka just to try and stop the sick. And I
yeah.
miss that with a vengeance. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
No,
It's gutting that we can't
no.
do that anymore. And that's what
I don't know. It's such a shame, isn't it, that we had to give all that up?
I think it's such a shame. I think I remember back in the early days, I had people that would kind of maybe see me at a party and they would kind of go, oh, and it was almost that look of sympathy as if like,
Yeah,
oh, like, oh, it's a
yeah,
shame you can't drink. And it's like, but at
yeah,
that time I was like, well, I suppose
yeah,
yeah, I can't drink. It's not a choice anymore. I cannot drink because I know
yeah.
if I do, I'll kill myself. But now I'm like, I'm
Exactly.
so glad I
Exactly.
can't drink. I don't want to.
Exactly.
And it's like
exactly.
you see
And
these
it's that,
posts, of
yeah,
people like, maybe young people or whatever,
yeah,
middle-aged people, and they're on a one of these booze cruises in Magaluf or somewhere,
yeah,
and they're up there and
yeah.
they're pouring that, and it's like caption
Hey,
living my best
hey,
life, and it's like, no, you're
hey.
not. What
No,
you're
he's
doing,
not.
Paul, you're living on a canal
Yeah,
boat with your two cats,
yeah,
your dog, and your missus, and
yeah,
you're living your
yeah.
best life. I've just moved in with my
Exactly,
fiance, her three kids, three
exactly,
cats, and I'm living my
exactly.
best life, and that's what it's all about, man.
It is, mate. It is, and that's the tricks of that alcohol is. It makes you believe them kind of things, and before you know it, it sucks you right in,
Yeah.
and you're addicted. You know what I mean? It's a drug. It's a highly addictive,
Yeah.
potent drug, and you've got to respect it. And I take my hats off to all those out there who can take a drink and leave it and just have a fun time and not even think about it again for days and weeks afterwards. You
Yeah.
know, they are what nobody likes to say, but I will say they are classed as the normal drinkers out there, let's say.
Yeah.
But so be it. They are the way they are, but there's too many of us, and there's too many of them right now who are not that way, and they're ignoring the signs
Hmm.
and spot them signs. And the signs can be it's not a case that you're craving a drink all the time. It's just financial.
Yeah.
It's, are you planning? Are you planning things daily around it? The
Is your
signs can
work
be so
suffering?
bizarre.
Yeah. Is your work suffering?
Yeah,
Are you like
relationships. Yeah,
relationships? I've heard a lot of people that they'll maybe be, they both like a drink, and then on a Friday and Saturday night they'll end up getting a little bit nippy
yeah,
with each other and
yeah.
argumentative, and it's the
That,
alcohol. It's that that's causing it. You cut
exactly.
that out and you're fine.
In the 11 years that I've been sober, me and my wife have barely had a bad word. We've had
Yeah.
plenty of bad words, but it's material things.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
oh,
exactly.
the
It's
the
resolvable.
viciousness that it used to cause when I was drinking, you know what I mean, and the smashing things up and
Yeah.
police involved, and you know, and all this goes back to what you just mentioned there, Jimmy. Was do I regret getting sober? Do I? Hell,
Hmm.
right? And it's all hindsight. I don't regret my early drinking days, okay, because they were good days, drug days, clubbing days, good days. But if I knew then what I know, if I knew then what I know now, kind of thing, I would have pushed myself to stop at least 5 years earlier,
Yeah.
okay, because that was the height, the full height of my addiction. But I ignored it for that time, and each year going past, I just got worse and worse and more ill, more ill. My liver
Yeah.
was shot to hell, but that's come back.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah, yeah,
we're
yeah. It
back, we're
does.
back,
It does.
we're back up and rolling. I didn't get the cirrhosis. How I didn't, but I didn't. But it bounced back, and you can. And you'll agree, Jimmy, I'm sure, that life is so much easier,
So much easier.
better.
Yeah.
We can manage it. Shit still happens. Okay, it's not. You'll stop drinking, and it doesn't make all the problems in the world disappear, but it
No,
makes them problems so much easier to deal with if
so
you get
much
my
more
drift.
manageable. And it's like
Absolutely.
it's just the fact that we don't have to hide stuff, or as you say,
No.
like working out when I'm going to get booze into the house from, without my
Yeah.
partner at the time seeing it. And I was
Yeah.
so I was 40 when I gave up, so the same age as you. And I read
Yeah.
something the other day that I don't know if it's true, but they were saying that you can absolutely cane it till you're about 36, 37, and then get away with it. But that's probably
Yeah.
true. But, pushing it to 40s, as I say, we're
Yeah.
both pretty lucky. But I'm glad that I stopped at this age and not, 5 years or another
Yeah.
10 years down the line. Because I probably wouldn't be here, let's be honest. So,
It may,
you
and
know,
and that's something else I push. The longer you leave it, the tougher it gets.
yeah, yeah.
The tougher it
Because
gets, and the more.
I was just going to say, like, because
Yeah.
you said your mum, and sorry to hear about that, but she managed to what, she was in her 70s or 70, and that's
70s, yeah.
so you can
That's a
have
prime
this
example.
long, horrible,
Yeah,
lingering, and I'm not saying your mum's life was
yeah.
horrible, but do you know what I mean? It can be, it can
Oh,
drag it right out, and
oh,
it's a very painful way
mate,
to go in the end, and yeah,
she she was living in cesspits and all sorts. And I mean,
oh,
on piss and shit, and you go out to a flat, and it's an awful thing because she just couldn't come back. We managed to get her dry for a couple of years, and
yeah,
bang, boom, different lady. I mean, but it got her again.
Yeah.
And
And
yeah,
this is the side that people don't see. They don't see this.
exactly,
There was a great documentary
exactly.
that Louis Theroux did called Drinking to Oblivion, and you can't get it
So,
anywhere. It's not on the
I
iPlayer. It's
saw it at
not
the
anywhere.
time, and I
Yeah.
remember the lad on it. Yeah, yeah, that is a good. There's another one as well. Is it raining in the light or something? I'm not sure,
Oh, I've
but
not seen
there's a
that one.
couple out there which. Yeah, I'll
Send
look
me
it
a
up.
link
One
to
of my
that one.
clients, one of my clients actually told me about it, and I think I had seen it many. I think I'd seen it when I was still drinking. I probably
Yeah,
chose to
yeah.
ignore it, but it's so sad. You know, I
Is
don't want
that
to give any
set in a
spoilers, but
London hospital?
you know, I can't. Remember. I don't think so. It's just following four people, four alcoholics.
Yeah,
Probably is it 4 or 5? God bless. I don't think there's many of them left, if any. You
yeah,
know, I don't want to give away spoilers and all that, but you know, it's such an eye opener. And I'm not bothered about watching it now because I don't know, we're big bad memories. Because I am where I am now, but I think it'll be a fantastic watch for somebody who's thinking
yeah,
about
yeah.
and they know they're in a dark place and they need that confirmation that listen, this is what happened. So I will look into that and I'll get something.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
was going to
yeah.
do a post about it. So I was going to do a post about it at some point, just put a link on for anybody to go on. But yeah,
Well,
but things like that we've seen. There's such a dark area of
yeah,
when you're in the depths of it. You know where people are when people are just you know just surviving. They're just
yeah.
surviving
And
on a drink.
this
You with
needs
me?
to
They
be
just
more
it
out
does
there in the public broadcasting
it does
arena. Do you know what I mean? Like little service
it does
announcements to say, stop
it
doing this,
does.
guys, because it's killing you.
It
You know?
does. Well, we see with the heroin, you know, the people injecting, you know, that's dramatized on TV, on films, and how bad that can be. You know, what I mean, but alcohol can be just as debilitating,
Ah,
and
yeah,
it's not worth. You know, you can be living in a bed sit with nothing to your name and only be on bottles of vodka.
yeah.
You're scraping the pennies together to get vodka together. You
Scraping
know,
the pennies
it's
together to get that. That's what I was doing towards the end before I came over
yeah,
here. And it was sad,
yeah,
like borrowing money off friends and saying, "Oh, I'll pay you back,"
oh yeah,
just to get vodka, not bothering about
yeah,
food or getting money to get
no.
food for this one. I always get money for the cat,
No,
but it was crazy. It's crazy.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Eating was cheating. Yeah. Oh
Yeah.
God, no. It got in the way. It got in the
Yeah.
way, and I think it was 2 o'clock in the morning when I'd eventually have something to eat, but then I'd pass out and
And it'd
start drinking again at 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock.
just be useless food, processed crap as well.
Oh yeah,
Paul, is there
oh
anything
yeah.
else
My question.
you wanna add to the listeners?
That you know, just anybody out there who's struggling, like we just said, spot the signs, speak up.
Yeah.
Okay, there's no shame, no embarrassment at all. Okay, there's more and more big burly. You know, I've met and talked to many big people. You know, high profile as well. You know, who are coming out and they're really just hitting it head on.
Yeah.
And that's the secret now. The
Yeah.
secret is to rise above, no shame, get going, get out there. It's a better life. It's a lot more cooler. It's a lot more trendier
Oh,
to be sober. It's a
yeah.
lot more manly. It's a lot more manly and womanly, let's say, and grown up and mature to acknowledge there's a problem, to bounce back from it. Yeah, too many people are scared of what people are going to think. No, flip that coin. Let them see what you've done and what you can do, and they will envy you. They will be envious of you. Yeah. And them who shout loudest about you not drinking are the ones who have the biggest problem.
Mm. Very wise
And
words,
I'm going to
Paul.
leave
I love that. I love that because
that bit.
it's so true. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
it's
it is,
like
mate.
people say they don't want to be part of the crowd and they want to be an individual. Then stop being a
Yeah,
sheep and go and drinking,
yeah,
Jaeger bombs till you pass
exactly.
out. You know?
Don't have to follow a crowd. You do not have to follow that crowd. Yeah, and
Exactly.
that's what we do, and that's what I just try. I will never preach. You know, if you're going to drink, drink. You know,
Yeah.
I hope you enjoy it. I hope you're happy. I hope it works for you. Yeah,
Yeah.
but
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm just here to say, what are you drinking for? You know, are you drinking for the right reasons? Are you drinking to be social, more social? Are you drinking to be happy? Are you drinking to pick up? Because it's really the wrong reasons.
Yeah.
You can do all that, and that then leads to dependence.
Of course.
You know, you're drinking. I did used to. I was drinking vodka before I even went to a social event because I wanted that beforehand, and now we're
Yeah,
just pulling me deeper and deeper
because I
into
think
addiction.
so much research is going into it. Is it in your DNA? Is it, your
Yeah,
kind of social
yeah,
upbringing?
yeah,
Is it your family
yeah,
ties? Or
yeah,
is it the fact that it's a drug and the more you do it, the more chance you've likely of becoming addicted to it? I think the latter is probably the most likely because
yeah. I
I
think
absolutely,
so.
I drank a couple of people's lifetime supply of alcohol
Oh
in
yeah,
my short, space of time,
yeah,
and that's what
yeah.
got me addicted to it. So yeah.
It is, and absolutely right, absolutely right. And the secret is early intervention, and just spot the signs, try and
Yeah.
see what it does to people, see where, and they have to see where it could end up. And
Yeah.
this ignorance to say, "Oh, well, I'm not that bad. I'm not that bad." I remember them
Yeah,
days.
yeah,
God,
yeah, yeah.
I remember them days. Say to my wife when I'd phoned in sick from work, but I know I'm not an alcoholic. I know I'm not because I'm not doing this, I'm not doing that. And I was
Kidding
just
ourselves.
fooling myself, kidding myself. And, we're just there to just don't kid yourself. Don't fool yourself. And, if you stop now, you'll thank yourself in a few years because there's too many, well, not as many now, but there's too many who've come back to me and said, Paul, I wish we'd done it 6 months ago.
Yeah.
And I never say I told you so. I do say you don't want to be. Where would you rather be in 6 months or 6 years? Saying to yourself, "So glad I did that,"
Yeah.
or saying to yourself, "Why didn't I do that?"
Yeah, yeah,
Because
yeah.
I'm in all right. I'm in all right world of shit now.
Yeah.
Don't risk
And
it.
that's the thing.
Just don't
And
risk it.
on the flip side of that, it is never too late to stop,
Never,
never too
never,
late to stop.
never. And there's more. And the thing, it's good to see. There's more and more young ones
Yeah.
who, not
Because you
not
say
good
it
in the
is
fact that
cooler.
they've got. Yeah, it is. They're getting down with it now, and there's more of the young ones who have noticed they've got a bit of an issue, but they're stopping.
Yeah,
They've
yeah,
seen the
yeah, yeah.
signs. I've got a few 20-year-olds on the books, and they just don't. They don't want it. They've seen it what it does to people. They've seen what it does to family members. They've seen what it could do to their career moving forward. They do not want it, and that's so refreshing to see. And I think that kind of attitude in the young ones is spreading to
Yeah.
others, and they're all doing it, and it's just great to see. But
Well, it is because
we've
it's
a
like
long way to go.
long way to go, but Instagram has been an amazing source of
Yeah,
support for
yeah,
me and inspiration and
yeah,
all that. Where can we
yeah,
find you on Instagram? What's your handle there, Paul?
yeah. Paul Sober Harris on
Nice.
Instagram is my main platform. I'm on
Yeah.
all the others, but Instagram
We'll put
is
all that.
is
I'll
the
put
one.
all that in the
Please
kind of
do, sir.
description.
And all my links for anything that I do is all in there.
Yeah.
You can see what I've done,
Well,
my
I'll put them on
story.
the podcast as well, and then obviously
Okay, mate.
we'll be sharing this out. This will be coming out in about I
Yeah,
think it's about 4 weeks, 4 or 5 weeks at the moment. So yeah,
okay,
yeah,
pal. Yeah,
we'll
well,
get
whatever
that
you
on.
put out, I'll just be banging it all on my socials. And it's just, let's just keep spreading the word.
That's
You know
it,
what I mean?
mate.
I want to make clear as well, I'm not doing it for popularity. I'm not doing it for, the glitz and glamour. I'm
No,
doing it because I've seen what it does to people. And it's such a shame. It's a waste of a life sometimes. And we're doing it just to, if we can stop that one person from going that bit further, job done.
exactly, exactly. Well, let's leave it there, Paul. Thank you so much for coming on, mate. It's been an absolute pleasure
Thanks.
chatting to you, getting
Thanks
to
for
know
asking me
you.
on, Jimmy. It's been a pleasure, mate. Really has.
Chat to you soon, pal. Cheers, Paul. Bye, 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 bye.
Take care of yourself. Tell him,
Bye.
mate.
Thank you to Paul. Yeah, really, really good conversation with Paul. Thank you so much for making the time to come on. It's yeah, just a really good conversation. Very a lot of similarities between myself and Paul. Like kind of waking up in the morning and trying to. Well, he was obviously he had a bit more foresight than me, and he would organise the vodka before he would kind of go to bed, so he knew he had it in the morning. I maybe didn't have the money or didn't have the foresight or was really kind of trying to not drink in the morning, but every time I'd wake up towards the end and it was what I needed because the dependency. But Paul did get obviously into some dark places, especially with that aftershave incident, which is not a good place to be. That can end in really, really disastrous kind of outcomes. So really want people to not get to that point. That is just, just the epitome of it. I never did that, but there's obviously incidents with mouthwash with me, and I think this is what we were talking about. It's very paramount for people like ourselves who have that lived experience to then give back. That is one of the kind of main aspects in recovery. It seems to be the best kind of recovery method for people to just take advice and suggestions from people that have been there before. So it's if you are struggling, then look for meetings, look for places with peer mentors and people that have been there before and that can point you in the right direction and give you the right suggestions. So yeah, I hope everyone's had a really good bank holiday. As I say, this is coming from the early May bank holiday to the late May bank holiday. So yeah, I hope everyone's staying safe, and I hope the weather is as beautiful as it is today. Enjoy this kind of talking to the future. So as I say, I'm trying to get a kind of idea of when I know when these podcasts will be dropped now. So it was kind of all a bit, up in the air. Didn't know when one was dropping and all that. But I've kind of set myself now into a little bit of a kind of flow and an equilibrium. So they are, going to be dropping every Monday for the foreseeable. I've got loads of really good ones lined up. Tomorrow I'm dropping Sober Dave, which will have been in the past now that you're listening to this one. But there's so many other ones that I've got lined up for the summer. As I say, I was going to take a break, but that's not happening anymore. I'm an addict, what can I say? So I'm just going to keep them going. I will have a break at some point, but it might only be like a week or two. But there probably won't be a break for you guys because I've got quite a number in the can now that I can just keep kind of putting them out. So we'll see how it goes, guys. I'm enjoying doing them, and I know that you guys are enjoying listening to them. So it just seems silly for me to just take a break now when it's kind of, it's growing and growing. So thanks to everyone for listening to this episode all the way to the end and all the other ones. I always say, like, follow, share, stick a comment in, hit the 5-star review, and until next week, stay safe, stay sober, and stay supportive. Bye bye, guys. Peace.